Alright, so this might be a really bad idea, but I haven't talked myself out of it yet, so we'll see what happens. So about six years ago, at the beginning of this month, is when I started doing this, when Iron Man 3 came out. Uh, and over the years, I've come to realize that 6 years is a really long time to do this when I'm sometimes only half interested in it, sometimes super interested in it, just depending. But the thing is that when we started, my biggest fear when Owen begged me to do this was that the YouTube comment section is probably one of the worst places in the entire world, with some of the worst people in the entire world. So I was a little worried about that. So I just told him to not really say anything about anything people might say, and that I would do this. So now that 6 years has passed, occasionally, if there was like a positive one or a request or something, he'd get it back to me. But for the most part, I've been kind of kept in the dark. So for whatever reason, I guess to move things around a little bit, I got a little curious. So I decided to go back the entire 6 years and find the videos that had a comment on them. Now, when I decided to do this, I really didn't think there was going to be that many, so I was kind of surprised when I found I haven't really looked at most of them yet, so it's kind of a blind thing. I just kind of went to the ones that are marked that they have a comment, and yeah, there's a lot more than I thought there were. So hopefully this doesn't go on forever, and hopefully nobody's spirit is crushed, so mine in particular. So I figure we'll just go into this, and if you see this posted, apparently it didn't go that terribly. Otherwise, it's probably long since deleted somewhere, so we'll see what happens. And I guess we'll start with the most recent ones, and then go all the way back to this month of 2013. So we'll see what happens. Worth noting, the interesting thing about this concept is the fact that, yes, some of these comments will be going on 6 years old. So for all we know, most of these people have probably since long gone, and I'll pretty much be talking to nobody, but this really is just kind of a for fun thing, just to see what there is. And if anybody should hear these long delayed responses, that could be good or bad. So yeah, so this, we'll just see what happens. Alright, this first one's actually quite pleasant. From Dream Warrior Diary, it says, AJ is awesome. Thank you. And I would love to see more vids with AJ and his brother. Well, you're definitely going to get a lot more of that. We actually have one planned potentially this weekend, and certainly one or two over the summer. There's one big one I kind of really want to do over the summer at some point, and that's like a John Hughes retrospective. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do that, and obviously many more down the road. It is a lot easier to do videos with him, I find, where there's like somebody to sort of bounce off of and kind of not try to just keep myself together the whole time. I'd say like the James Bond retrospective that he and I did is probably my favorite video that I've done. So yeah, so expect a lot more of that for sure if that's what you're into. And then on the Dumbo remake, the live-action remake that just came out, Amy McLean's Super Rank Art says, I'd happily watch Dumbo a second time, smiley face. Yeah. So, this is pleasant to see because I've realized that a lot of people are, like, as time goes on, pretty much everything I hear about that movie is, like, overwhelmingly negative, and I know a lot of it has to do with the irony that Disney didn't seem to see, where Michael Keaton's the villain and he's like the big corporate guy, and it's all about going against the whole corporate thing, and how hypocritical that would seem coming from Disney. But even so, and I know that's a big, I kind of brushed that off when I reviewed it, but it is a pretty big thing, and I could totally see people being really put off by that. But yeah, I really didn't mind it, and for the most part, the vitriol towards it has been really odd to me. It just seems like a little much, but like I said, if it's that particular aspect, I suppose I can see it. So there is that. The top 10 of 2018 has one dude who just says, Jerix, I guess is his name, Roma for the win, is all he had to say. Yeah, even though I said that I guess Roma technically is objectively Probably one of the best movies of the year. It didn't make my top 10, but yeah, good for him for being a Roma fan. Though as far as Roma for the Win goes, I think Green Book might disagree. Alright, on Nanny McPhee versus Nanny McPhee Returns, we have Goodfella Tim with a shitload of versus suggestions. Punisher versus The Equalizer. Not bad. I did talk about both of those at some point, but I could probably further elaborate on the Punisher if I really wanted to, so that's possible. Gran Torino versus something. Probably another Eastwood movie at some point. Shame versus Hunger. The McQueen double feature with Fassbender. It's not bad. Probably would be an extremely depressing video, but we can look into it. Little Children versus something. That'd be In the Bedroom, wouldn't it? For the Todd Field double feature about kind of the behind closed doors sort of thing, which is... I love both of those movies, so I actually might probably do that one really soon, actually, now that you brought it up, so there's that. Fast Food Nation versus something. Fast Food Nation is one of those movies that's the Linklater one, isn't it? Because it's one of those movies where I only ever remember... I've seen it, I saw it when it first came out, but I only ever remember that it exists when I'm looking at Linklater's filmography. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot he did that one. I forgot that movie exists entirely. So, yeah, I'll have to look into that again. The Virgin Suicides versus Edge of 17. Tonally, they're pretty different. And I went into Edge of 17 pretty elaborately when it first came out. But I should probably visit Sofia Coppola more than I have. I think probably the only thing she's done that I've talked about is the Beguiled remake. Then there's 13 versus Lady Bird. I talked about Lady Bird pretty extensively through a couple of award seasons ago. When I reviewed, I would say The Virgin Suicides and 13 would probably be sort of closer together when we're talking about those. Chinatown versus Primal Fear. Well, I actually thought for a while about Chinatown doing it with LA Confidential, because not only do they kind of have like that whole kind of old school like detective movie kind of thing. I think the one reason I've kind of been avoiding doing that video is I wasn't sure how controversial it would be because I kind of find both of them a bit overrated. But even so, as far as Primal Fear goes, that's a really tough one because. Primal Fear has so much going on. It's got like the psychological side, and it's also got the courtroom side. So there's probably many different options they could go with it. But I will have to look into that because I do like Primal Fear a lot, also. And then there's even more. Assassination Nation versus something. Yeah, that's bizarre. I just got Assassination Nation from the library, but I still haven't watched it yet. So once I do that, I will probably figure it out. So yeah, Plane, Trains, and Automobiles versus Due Date. Like I said, Plane, Trains, and Automobiles would probably be if my brother and I end up doing that John Hughes retrospective. But I've actually gotten that one requested like quite a bit, those two together. So maybe I'll just have to give in and do that at some point, even if we talk about Plane, Trains, and Automobiles in a potential John Hughes video. The Little Rascals versus something. Yeah, I feel like there should be something immediately coming to me that goes with that, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, that I would love to talk about the Little Rascals. Who wouldn't? Inherent Vice versus Lebowski. We actually have talked about that one a lot because initially I went away from it because number one, I wasn't sure what else I could say about Lebowski that I haven't yet, and I already reviewed Inherent Vice when it came out. But the thing about that is that Inherent Vice is one of those movies that's probably different every time you see it. Like, I could watch Inherent Vice 3 different times and review it 3 different times and probably say something different every time. So that's one I might have to talk my brother into doing, because Lebowski's one of his favorite movies. And he hasn't seen Inherent Vice, but I would love to get his reaction to it, so I might look into that. Definitely. I Am Sam versus Philadelphia. I'm not really sure what those have in common too much. It's been a long-ass time since I saw I Am Sam, but I'll come back to that one. The Iceman versus Monster is interesting. I talked about The Iceman a lot when it first came out. It was my favorite movie of 2013, and it's actually... I actually think this might actually work, because even though I did talk about it at great length when it first came out, the fact that it was my favorite movie of that year, and that I get a lot of weird looks when I say that, It'd be interesting to sort of revisit it 6 years later and see if it still, holds up as if I love it as much as I did when it first came out. Because I have watched it a few times since then, but yeah, to kind of fully revisit it again would be really interesting. So yeah, I might actually look into that one. And obviously, Monsters definitely we're talking about. And the last one is Donnie Darko versus something. Um, well, okay, so this comment was back in December, so about 5 months or so prior to this, I actually did Donnie Darko. I did it with the butterfly effect. So that video is out there. Hopefully you didn't see it and it was so terrible you completely forgot it. Hopefully you just overlooked it, but yeah, I did do Donnie Darko versus the butterfly effect last July. I'm pretty sure it was July, so that exists. Alright, on the review video that had The Crimes of Grindelwald and Widows and Buster Scruggs and all those, Sean Corrigan says, great in-depth reviews from yourself. Thank you. The reason that they are, like, the way that they are, when you say in-depth, is basically, when I went into this, it was like, because movies take so long to make and so much goes into them, like a year plus for most, when Owen suggested that I do this, it seemed a bit like I couldn't imagine talking about everything I felt about a movie in the span of like 3 minutes or whatever, or 6 minutes or whatever it usually is for most people on YouTube, because it's like it just feels like there's so much to go into, and if I did that, I would feel so like I guess unsatisfied with myself and kind of the whole experience, because I feel like I wouldn't have gone into what it is that makes it so great or makes it so terrible or whatever it is in between, or the fact that most movies have both those things. So yeah, I try to be as in-depth as possible, sometimes a little too much, and sometimes I get a bit redundant, which is mostly just nerves, but, so yeah, so thanks for acknowledging that. On the first Speaking Bluntly I did, Into the Woods, Josh Lemley asks, are you gonna do a Blu-ray version of this series? Well, much as I could talk about Emily Blunt day after day after day and how much I love her and what she does, that was a 22 video series. And, well, the thing about that is, though, and I showed off that I collected the DVDs of, like, all of her movies in that video. I have been recollecting them slowly in Blu-ray, so as far as, like, a Blu-ray version of this series, I guess that would pretty much be putting them all together and saying, I feel about these exactly what I said before. They just look a lot clearer, and they sound a lot clearer. So completes Speaking Bluntly 2.0. This is, and you can tell, you can tell I have real admiration for her as an actress, because who else do you know that actually willingly got Sherlock Gnomes on Blu-ray? And I'm not even ashamed. Alright, on the review video for A Star Is Born and Venom and the Maniac miniseries and all that, we have Vic Grigg saying it would be nice if you could make a review of Glengarry Glen Ross and maybe compare it to some movies. Yeah, I definitely have intentions of talking about Glengarry Glen Ross. The question was, it actually feels like there's so many things I could go with. The one I think I was going to do with it was Boiler Room. But then I wasn't sure if I was going to do Boiler Room with, like, Wall Street or something. But then I realized I'll probably end up doing, like, Wall Street and Wall Street 2 together, and then Boiler Room and Glengarry Glen also probably end up together. So yeah, that is something I definitely have intentions of doing at some point in the near future. On Interview with the Vampire versus Queen of the Damned, Ian Armstrong says it was controversial at the time, not because of the gore, it was because Mr. Cruz was cast in a role that was written by Rice with heavy homoerotic tones. She did not want Cruz anywhere near the film as he had requested that aspect of the book be taken out of the film. Alright, first of all, this is such a... I didn't want to be confrontational when I made this video, but I will just say, this sort of know-it-all bullshit was kind of the stuff... some of the stuff that I was kind of... hoping I wouldn't come across. The thing about this is that, number one, this person seems incredibly sure of himself, despite the fact that, first of all, movies have... if there's a movie is controversial, there can easily be more than one controversial thing about it. I do specifically remember hearing that the gore was partially a reason it was controversial. This whole thing about Anne Rice didn't like that, or Cruz was against that the novel had homoerotic tones. I have never heard that at all, and I don't recall anything remotely similar to that. The only thing I remember is, and the thing I've heard over and over and over again, is that Rice just didn't like his casting. She just didn't think it would work. And her mind got changed when a producer basically insisted she watch the movie. So this guy seems super confident, but I have never heard that whatsoever. So yeah, so there you go. On the review video for Happy Time Murders, Black Klansmen, and Crazy Rich Asians, we have Black Death saying, interesting reviews. Thank you. I don't know if that means what I was saying was interesting, or the fact that it was the Happy Time Murders followed by Black Klansmen. Either one of those, your comment makes perfect sense. On My Fair Lady vs. Pygmalion, we have a guy saying, I like My Fair Lady more. Rex Harrison is better than Leslie Howard in Henry Egan's role. Well, obviously, I disagreed with that when I talked about it, and I think I still prefer Leslie Howard to Rex Harrison, but the thing is a few months ago, when they did putting the My Fair Lady in theaters again, I did manage to see it, and seeing it on a gigantic screen complete with, the intermission and all that, I was able to sort of see and much more appreciate Rex Harrison's performance more than I have before. So there is that, but still, I think just in general, I just really loved Leslie Howard in just about every role ever, so there may have been, a bias going into that anyway, much as I do love Rex Harrison also a lot. But I feel like Leslie Howard should just be mentioned when we talk about the best, there's ever been, so that's probably just my bias going into that, but that's, I think, mostly why I probably prefer him. When I talked about Gus Van Sant's Death Trilogy, Jerry Elephant and Last Days, we have two on this one. Okay. The first one is, thanks for the interesting retrospective on the trilogy. You're very welcome. I'm a huge Van Sant fan, probably my favorite director, so I was looking for a serious analysis of his work, and I found your video, smiley face. The really great thing about that is that's one of the scarier things about doing this, is when you... Because obviously I tend to go from video to video, not so much lately, but for the most part, pretty rapidly, where it's like you talk about one and then you go on to the next and just kind of keep it moving. And at some point you're going to talk about something that's like really sacred to somebody, or somebody that, doing a video on Gus Van Sant's Death Trilogy, and being seen by somebody that says Van Sant is probably their favorite director, that's like a lot of pressure, but so to hear that is like really, really satisfying. I'm really grateful to hear that, so yes, definitely thanks for that comment. And then this guy underneath, Jeremy Cole, says, I am very interested in collaborating on future projects with you. It is getting harder to find like-minded individuals willing to be individuals, heard, willing to take the time to voice the passions that drive us. I encourage you to respond, to reach out, and take part in some sort of an agreeable banter. I see what this means now. I've watched this video more than any other video dedicated to the work of Gus Van Sant. Apparently I'm some Gus Van Sant expert and I didn't realize it. Since you took the time to care, and here's my analysis of your analysis. Details, 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 in all caps. This is achieved without the use of flashy, tacky editing, which is a growing trend that aids to ADD. I kind of agree with that. There isn't a single cut, and your choice of shirt speaks to roaringly peaceful. It's the Lion King shirt, that makes sense. A highbrow review of the arts is rare on YouTube. No smoke, no mirrors. It's just a discussion between a film buff and his heart. This is really deep. As an aspiring filmmaker, I would be honored to add a new addition to your thought-provoking manner. Thank you. Well, holy shit, thanks for that. Sincerely. Yeah, I've never kind of given thought to collaborating with other people, mainly because it's probably just my general discomfort with other people. But this is like a really passionate reaction. I never expected something like this. So Yeah, I can, think about that, but it's usually when it's like my brother or Owen or something. I tend to get kind of nervous interacting with people that I'm not really familiar with, but I mean, this is like really, really passionately written, so yeah, I would say never to something like that for sure. So yeah, that's amazing. On the Incredibles 2 Tag Hotel Artemis review video, we have... Oh, shit. Oh, okay, Jesus. So the guy's name is the worst critic. When I saw that, I thought it was the comment. No, the comment is, that's a lot of movies. Yes, oh, okay. I think, I thought he was talking about the movies I reviewed. I'm assuming that's referring to the setup. Well, dude. Alright, so there's the ones you're familiar with, and then we come over here to all of these, and then work your way down here to some of those, and then all the way over here. This is, if you'll, remember the Speaking Bluntly segment, this is the shelf that was behind me. And that goes all the way down there. And you come past Heath Ledger for these that go all the way to that back corner and then all the way up. Sorry for the motion sickness. Just all the way up. And then over here we have the Criterion Collection and the Star Wars box set that doesn't quite fit on the shelf because it's too tall. And the Criterion section goes all the way to the ceiling. And that would explain how Versus has been so sustainable over the years. And that's just the DVDs. The Blu-rays are in the other room, and I have a whole VHS library that's like packed away somewhere. So yeah, clearly I'm one of those people that really has no intention of going the digital route, no matter how much people love to say that physical copies are dying or whatever. This is so much more comfortable to me than, say, buying a whole bunch of different streaming services, having to worry about what those streaming services are or are not going to have. And there's the whole thing where having digital copies of movies in place of it just isn't... Maybe this is just me, but it's not permanent enough. It doesn't feel permanent enough. Like I would always worry about if I'm going to somehow lose those in one way or another. And not to mention just the whole being able to not have to worry about anything and just grab whatever you want is really just really, for me anyway, the better way to go. So I don't even like getting into that argument because it just frustrates me too much. So because people just seem so hell-bent on the idea of killing the idea of physical copies, and that's just not going to, as far as I go, it's not going to happen, at least any time in the next very fucking long time. On The Exorcist 3 versus the Ninth Configuration, Darkham 1138 says, "Have just brought the Ninth Configuration on Blu-ray." Nice. The Ninth Configuration is amazing. What's interesting is, yeah, I do feel inclined to get the Blu-ray of the Ninth Configuration, but at the same time, the only way I've ever seen the Ninth Configuration is like that ratty old VHS that I'm pretty sure I have in the video. And it just feels like it fits that so well, just like it's like sets the mood, just the quality of that video, so I'd almost be kind of afraid what it would do if I saw like a really nice cleaned up version of it, but I probably will eventually. So but yeah, so I'll eventually look into that. On Sunset Boulevard versus All About Eve, we have a couple of people. One guy says, 2 of the best movies of all time. Yeah. I wouldn't consider them either one kind of personal favorites of mine. But I'd say that's almost an objective statement, pretty much. And then the second guy says, "It's interesting seeing 2 similar yet different films released the same year." Oh yeah, and that was 1950. God knows how many times we've seen that since then. On the, on the Infinity War video, we have... Oh yeah, I knew about this one. Cassie, I believe that's the Cassie, that we talked to in the awards videos. Okay, I know this will probably be really hard to do considering there are 18 Marvel movies, but versus all of them if possible. And yeah, we did end up doing that, and we actually had it planned before I'd even done this particular video. So yeah, our whole retrospective on the MCU from the first Iron Man to Infinity War does exist. I think we mentioned Ant-Man and the Wasp in passing because it was like still in theaters at the time or around that time. So yeah, that'd be really interesting to look back on now what we were saying after the results of Endgame. But yeah, so that exists. Next we have something on Bonnie and Clyde versus Gun Crazy. Liam Korn says, "Thank you for this, man. You're welcome. I am doing a project on the comparison of these two films, and this really helped me." Oh, that's, once again, that's really cool to hear. It makes me, half is like, yes, that's amazing, I love hearing that, and the other half of me is like, oh god, I really hope I didn't fuck up at all. So yes, that's awesome. Thanks for saying that. On Election versus Rushmore, Goodfella Tim has another versus suggestion. Sorry if I mentioned this before, don't be sorry. Would Babel versus 21 Grams be a good versus? Obviously it'd be great. Because for a while there, I was thinking about doing Babel and Traffic. But it would make more sense it would make a lot more sense if we did Babel, 21 Grams, and Amoris Paris and just did the full Inuyutu trilogy. That's probably what I'll end up doing in the future with those. So yes, definitely. On 10 Things I Hate About You versus Can't Hardly Wait, we have Cassie's back, saying, speaking of 10 Things I Hate About You, back in 2008, ABC Family did a television show that didn't go that well. I think I vaguely remember that, but like all I really remember is like maybe an advertisement or something. Did you say it didn't go that well? That's very easy to believe. And then Hannibal 03 Lecter 09 just says Heath Ledger. That's all he said. Yes, Heath Ledger is in 10 Things I Hate About You. That is correct. Good job. Alright, on, this one I did one of those Netflix catch-up videos before I wake, the open house. God. And the Poke King. We have Ashley. Okay. Methinks that Stepsisters needs its own review to get it torn apart by AJ. Well, up until reading this comment, I forgot Stepsisters existed, but it's all coming back to me now. Yeah, that's the one that I watched for 10 minutes, and I gave up on it. Well, I don't, because if I was going to do a whole video on it, that would require watching the rest of Stepsisters. And the thing about, I really don't do that. If I start a movie, I will pretty much do everything in my power to make sure that I finish it. Even if I, like, stop it because it's so bad, I will eventually go back to it for the sake of completion to say that I did see it officially, which gives me all the right to shit-talk it if I've seen it all the way through. But I just don't foresee that in my future at all. If you would like to, anybody out there would like to try to watch Stepsisters and get farther than 15 minutes, you're a better man or woman than I will ever be. So that's where I stand with that, Ashley. See you in 3 months. Okay, on Apocalypse Now versus the Deer Hunter, a guy just called Dominic says, "Nice vid, thanks for listening to my suggestion." Oh yes, this is the guy that, suggested this one. I think the comment said something like it was because to kind of fill the opening after we did Platoon and Full Metal Jacket, and these two just made sense. Yeah, I really liked doing that video and revisiting those two, so thanks for the suggestion. I wasn't sure you actually upload this, of course I would. I'd be interested in seeing if you could do something with Dog Day Afternoon, possibly. Oh yeah, Owen did tell me about this one, because I think it was the very next week. He says, "I guess I just like John Cazale." Yeah, because I think after I did this, and then last year I think I did The Conversation and Blowout, and after The Conversation I think I've hit every John Cazale movie, because I did The Godfathers together, and those. I don't know if you could match up against it, but I'd be interested to see something about that movie. Yeah, I did Dog Day Afternoon with Spike Lee's Inside Man that very following week, so you may or may not have seen that. So, yes. Thanks for the awesome suggestion, also. We Own the Night versus the Yards, Goodfella Tim has more versus suggestions. Would Saving Private Ryan versus Flags of Our Fathers be a good versus? Probably, yeah. I do know that Saving Private Ryan is getting that theatrical re-release at the beginning of next month, in the first weekend of June, I think, which I plan on catching. And after I do that, I was going to possibly do I know it's the obvious one to do, but with the Thin Red Line, to kind of show the vast difference in the same year that they did capturing that war with Spielberg's version and Malick's, and how those two totally different visions did that. Yeah, Flags of Our Fathers is a really good option too. If I decide, I'll probably watch the Thin Red Line again, and then I'll decide, like, are they too incomparable that Flags of Our Fathers would be more likely. I'll have to see about that. True Romance versus Natural Born Killers. Yeah, I think I vaguely touched on those when we did that Tarantino thing. The Tarantino thing that I really would redo, probably, if I did. That was, like, when we first started, so I don't know what the hell I said. And True Romance and Natural Born Killers are worth talking about at great length. So yeah, that one's pretty possible. Bad Grandpa versus Bad Santa. I've been wanting to do Bad Santa for a while, and I just have no idea what to do. We did talk about Bad Grandpa when it came out, but, I mean, that really is probably the only thing it would go with, wouldn't it be? Something that's not complete shit, probably. And American Sniper vs. Lone Survivor. I did talk about both of those when they came out, but it's been long enough to where I could probably reconsider, especially with Lone Survivor, since we're getting another Mark Wahlberg, Peter Berg movie before too long. Something that has to be better than Mile 22. Yeah, that could potentially be worth looking into. So, yeah. The whole horror thing where I did Jigsaw and Happy Death Day and all those long delayed sequels like Leatherface and that Amityville movie and all that. We have two. We have where is it? Jeepers Creepers 3 took 14 years to be made. Cult of Chucky took 4 years to be made. Leatherface took 4 years to be made. Jigsaw took 7 years to be made. This has to be the best Halloween lineup of the 2010s. I wonder if this guy has seen these movies. That is an interesting point, though, that all those series kind of managed to line up in the same year like that after being in so much preparation. So yeah, good observation. And then Kathy Willis says, my 31-year-old son would like for them to bring Friday the 13th back, October 13th, 2018. I feel like every year we hear about Friday the 13th reboot that ends up never happening. Was that October 13th, 2018 was a Saturday. That would probably explain why nothing came out on that day. So yeah. Alright. On reviews for Geostorm and Only the Brave and The House and 1922. Thomas Craighead has a lot to say. I saw Only the Brave knowing nothing at all about the story and was absolutely amazed and intrigued by the whole situation. After leaving the theater, I went straight to YouTube and Googled to learn everything I could about the tragedy. Anytime I see a review about the film, I watch it to see if someone else had the same experience I did or close to it. You have given the best review, in my honest opinion, of this movie that I have seen. Thanks. I caught myself many times audibly saying, yes, I agree, me too, that's what I thought. You made the same points I made when I tried to get friends and family to go see it, both the good and the very few bad. I have subscribed and will check in on your channel before I go to a movie to see if I might enjoy it, and also after to see if I agree with your views. Thank you for having the confidence to sit in front of a camera for hours and give your opinion, and I just wanted to let you know someone is listening. That's really nice. Of course I just said that. P.S. I love The House, you're wrong, fuck you. LOL. Right. On the Foreigner and Battle of the Sexes and Wish Upon and the Meyerowitz Stories review, somebody just says in all caps, I love Wish Upon. And that's it. Well, that makes one of us. On Hellraiser vs. Drag Me to Hell, Goodfellow Tim has a versus suggestion of The Last King of Scotland versus Blood Diamond. Yeah. I think, obviously, the main thing is that those came out the same year, and Whitaker and DiCaprio were both competing for actor that year. Um, so, yeah, I could potentially look into that one. On Men in Black versus the X-Files, Carlos Blanco says this too should have a crossover. These two should have a crossover, I guess it is. Yeah. I still look back on this video in shame, having the audacity to talk about the X-Files movie, and I still, to this day, haven't watched a single episode of the show yet. I keep meaning to, and last summer I did watch, a lot of the classic shows that I'd never seen before, like The Sopranos and The Wire and stuff like that. But I still never got around to the X-Files, but I do plan on doing that at some point. I'm hoping it's something that I could get into, so I guess we'll see. And then the reviews for Wind River, Baywatch, and a couple of others. This guy just says, nice video. Sometimes that's just the nicest ones, just the ones where they just say something nice in just a couple of words, and that's it. Sometimes those are, like, the best, so that's always really nice, no matter what. Alright, we have something on Tombstone versus Wyatt Earp. This one's just from 2 weeks ago. Oh, so this guy might hear this. It's, holy Jesus. This guy has a lot to say. Well, it's natural that Costner saw what an amazing life Wyatt Earp had outside of just the events of Tombstone, and that potential seemed like a missed opportunity to not explore. True. I'm glad Costner did what he did because it resulted in two superb movies that both succeed for different reasons. Absolutely. Both are accomplished on a high level in all departments. Tombstone is more entertaining, but Wyatt Earp is more enriching. It's like comparing a quick tasting milkshake to a grand four-course meal. Both are still delicious, but one did demand more patience for its preparation and requires more time to digest, while the other is something that can be immediately enjoyed more frequently. That is shockingly clever. And exactly right. Yeah, perfect way to explain. I also love seeing somebody talk so passionately about Wyatt Earp, because you don't really hear that much. A lot of people just see Tombstone and assume that Wyatt Earp is like the more bloated version, so this is really cool to hear. We need the fully restored extended cut of Wyatt Earp on Blu-ray because that incorporated material is really quite informative and well crafted, and is actually just slightly more than the current release's supplementary archive of deleted scenes. And Kurt Russell needs to go edit his supposed epic saga cut of Tombstone. He claims to personally possess much more shots that expand Tombstone's depth and relationships. I had no idea of this. Russell put it on par with potentially being the Western equivalent of The Godfather. Since after the firing of the original director Kevin Jarre a week or so into production, executive producer Russell claimed to have actually ghost-directed Tombstone himself. Yeah, we talked about that. On the recommendation of his Tango and Cash co-star Sylvester Stallone, George P. Cosmatos was quickly brought in to fill the qualifying position of Guild-credited director while truly serving as Russell's glorified first assistant director, line producer. I was a little fuzzy on the details of that. That sounds accurate. Who was a creative collaborator with valuable input to a degree, but which was beholden to facilitate Russell's designs by more or less just handling the on-set crew correspondences behind the camera. Yeah, I remember also, Sam Elliott recently did one of those SAG interviews when he was promoting A Star Is Born during the awards, when he kind of also somewhat went into detail about this. Cosmatos did still contribute his technically creative talents to Tombstone's achievement, and that's no easy task either. It's no accident that Sly's brother Frank Stallone has a nice little acting part in one of Tombstone's early saloon gambling scenes. Tombstone obviously wins the Tombstone portion by exclusively investing in just the tension of that scenario and its players. I'd say it's cast better the Costner cast in production ever so slightly. I wouldn't even say slightly, I'd say very much. Except for the absolute flat fact that the gracefully sublime and deeply felt depiction by Joanna Going of Wyatt's long-lasting future wife, Josie, in Gaston's picture is so incredibly superior to the disgracefully shrill and shrew portrayal by Dana Delaney in Tombstone. Once again, I somewhat try to defend Dana Delaney a little bit, but yeah, this is the pretty common thought. Costner's Wyatt Earp clearly has far better discernment in his proclivities. Oh, and Costner is a class act. Love him. Very thoughtful actor. Definitely agree with that last thing. Costner's kind of... It's weird to say a beloved actor with 2 Oscar wins is underrated, but I mean, really, like... these days, I really don't think he gets the credit for just how much he's accomplished and how great he really is. So there's that. Alright, I did the original Planet of the Apes from '68 as a versus with Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Somebody says, if they do continue the new series, I'm hoping Hugh Jackman plays the Charlton Heston role. That'd be interesting. I hear a while back somebody said that all they could see was Hugh Jackman when they went back and watched old Eastwood movies from the '60s, and now I can't unsee that. which is beside the point. Yeah, I mean, I would say I keep hearing other things about that new series potentially going on or not. I do think War was like the absolute perfect ending to that, but at the same time, it would be interesting to see like if they wanted to go the direction of like directly remaking the '68 movies. I guess we'll see what they do with that. Then this guy says, just watch them all. The original Planet of the Apes is still my favorite. Not only the original movies, but my favorite of the remakes and reimaginings as well. Yeah, I'd say that. I know, I really, really love War, but I think that's, yeah, it's probably the '68 one would be the best of all those. Great actors, great writing, great pacing, make this a work of art even today, and Linda Harrison was beautiful in a hard-to-replace kind of way. The makeup is terrific, especially for the times, but I always looked at it like the apes' bodies appear and walk like humans is because their bodies have evolved over decades. Makes sense. Yeah, I also just can't get enough of Roddy McDowall, especially in the later movies. It's weird that he actually, I think, got even better as the older movies went on, especially since he kind of took over the lead after a while. This next one is when I did the Dollars trilogy versus the Dirty Harry series. This guy says, good review, man. Thanks. Clint is the man. The Darwin Trilogy and Dirty Harry movies are my favorite movies he's in, and the Darwin Trilogy is my favorite westerns. The Man with No Name, my favorite western character, and Eastwood is my favorite actor in westerns. And I'm with you on A Few Dollars More being the best of the trilogy. That's actually really nice to hear because I was terrified that I completely fucked that video up. Because of that shitty editing, I'm still trying to manage that shitty editor to this day, like 2 years later. And the thing about that is I just have such an admiration for the Dollars trilogy. Like, it is so iconic and so influential, and it feels like, even though it was the '60s, it almost feels like they exist. Those movies feel like they've been around longer than movies have. They're just that, just influential, and it's, yeah. So I was like really fearing that I just botched that entire thing. So that's a huge relief to hear that from you. So thanks a lot for that. On A History of Violence versus Eastern Promises, a guy just says, nice video, keep it up. See, those short and sweet ones are just, yeah, I just love those. On It Comes at Night, Bella Michelle says, very good analysis of the movie, thank you very much. I love this movie, and I really need to watch it for a second time. I started to dread the night as much as Travis. I kept thinking, what terrible thing is coming for this family. Yes, I really love It Comes at Night as well, and also it's just as good a second time as well. Though since this was 2 years ago, you probably know that by now. But yeah, and it still kind of pains me that it got the reception that it did, mainly because of the marketing and how everybody just really thought they were in for something else. But like I said, if you go into it knowing what it's like, and it's one of those things that's just kind of the gift that keeps on giving. The very, very, very disturbing and startling gift that keeps on giving. But that's what makes it so fantastic. And those performances are just out of this world, insane. So yes, so glad there's another fan of that. On The Raid versus Dread, this guy says, great video. I agree with you on The Raid 2. I don't know if you're doing requests. I saw your Crouching Tiger and Once Upon a Time in China video. Maybe do Fist of Fury versus Fist of Legend. Give me a second while I look up. Fist of Legend sounds really familiar, but I can't put a face with it. It is, oh yeah, Jet Li, that makes sense. Yeah. I don't think I've seen Fist of Legend, but it may very well be laying around here somewhere. So yeah, I could look into that. Yeah, I could look into that, sure. Then, when my brother and I did National Treasure versus National Treasure 2, this guy says, who is this new person? I don't think I saw him before. Obviously, that's my brother. And, oh yeah, Owen responded and told him, so there, that's been cleared up. Going on to, Fear versus Swim Fan. I completely forgot I did that video, and it's over an hour long. Of course it is, because I love Fear so much. This guy says, I know this may be a little late. Clearly, it's never too late. But I really enjoyed your breakdown in comparison of these two awesome stalker films. Can you do more like Urban Legend versus... I know what you did last summer. It's an acronym. Or others. Urban Legend, I know what you did last summer. That's not a bad one. I could probably look into that. Yeah. And thanks for that compliment. It's nice to see fans of other movies like that, because they're just these guilty pleasures that I can never get enough of. Those thrillers that feel like they're like way out of date by the time they come out. I just really eat that shit up. And then we've got A Few Good Men versus Sleepers. It's that same guy, the Keep It Up guy. Just says keep it up twice. And that's especially nice to hear on this one, because I did A Few Good Men versus Sleepers. We were like, the whole family was going through like a really bad time in that area. So that's nice that this one got acknowledged. Next one was on the Jesus Christ Superstar versus Godspell video. There's a couple. There's one that's there's a timestamp. It says, sadly they say that kind of Judas for the 2001 remake of the film. I'm going to assume that was me talking about just Carl Anderson's performance in general, and the fact that they didn't make him like some villain or whatever. I'm not sure of this 2001 remake, but if that's the case, that's unfortunate. Meanwhile, I have two theories to explain the actors in the bus and perhaps the gang in Godspell. Theory 1, the Jesus in Godspell isn't Jesus, but the angel Gabriel, Michael S.E., and John the Baptist, also playing out Judas's role later, visit Earth to teach some spiritually troubled folks the gospel. Meanwhile, the real Jesus, Mary Magdalene, the apostles, Judas, and the other folks from the gospel visit Earth to reenact Jesus' last day prior to the crucifixion for reasons I've yet to come up with. Yeah, that's what's so great about the ambiguity of that stuff, is that I think in the video I just kind of surrendered to it and was just like, you could just delve into it in all these different ways. Theory 2, the Gospel Gang and the Superstars are all just film students in either the same or different schools assigned to create a film in celebration of Easter. I think that's basically about where my mind was, but I just love hearing all the different stuff. Anyway, you've done a great job with the video. Thank you very much. And just to clear the air, there was also Johnny Cash's film Gospel Road that had also come out the same year, revolving around a gospel musical. The Godspell had come first, being released on March 21st. Then it was Gospel Road coming out 10 days later on March 31st. Then Jesus Christ Superstar coming out on August 15th. Good lord, no pun intended. So, yes, that's really insightful, so thanks for that. And then, then we've got Ninja Dog that just says, I think Jesus Christ Superstar is better. Yeah, those are great. Then we have the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo versus, where I did the Swedish version versus Fincher's version. The first person just says, both good, but I actually prefer the Swedish original. Alright. And the second guy says that's a hard choice, but I have to go with Fincher. The cinematography, editing, and the way the exposition and character traits come through. The dialogues that naturally all make it feel more immersive. My biggest problem with the original was how long it felt and the average way everything was presented. The remake is masterfully suspenseful. I pretty much agree with all that. Even though I do like the original well enough, I do think Fincher just really kind of took the whole material above and beyond. On the reviews for Silence, Jackie, and Patterson, this person says the best three movies with actors from Star Wars, like Kylo Ren, Qui-Gon Jinn, and Padme, of course. Because Silence is Liam Neeson, Jackie's Natalie Portman, and Patterson is Adam Driver. And then some guy just says first. Don't do that. Nobody likes that guy. And then on RoboCop vs. Total Recall, this person says, you don't like the game? I love that movie. Yeah, most people, speaking of Fincher, most people do love the game, but the whole going back and forth thing, it was one of those cases where I just knew no matter what direction you went, it was just going to feel like you were getting jerked around for the sake of it. But I did see the game a long-ass time ago, before I really was able to take movies in as much as I do now, so I have been meaning to revisit. I almost, just randomly got it on Criterion when I saw it one day, but I didn't want to. It was a little too expensive for a movie that I didn't care for in my youth that I haven't revisited since. But I do definitely plan on revisiting it at some point, because maybe I'll find a lot more of appreciation for it now than I did back then, but that remains to be seen. We've got on True Lies versus Mr. and Mrs. Smith, just somebody saying True Lies the best. They're not specifying if that means True Lies is the best when compared to Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or True Lies is just the best movie ever made. I will accept either. On Air Force One versus Executive Decision, we have God of the 90s, The Decade of Copies, Wyatt Earp and Tombstone, Deep Impact and Armageddon, Volcano and Dante's Peak, Executive Decision, Air Force One. Yeah, I've done 3 out of 4 of those for versus also. Also, what we talked about with the All About Eve, Sunset Boulevard stuff. And then, in all caps, somebody said 747 Jumbo Jet rules in both movies, smiley face. And believe it or not, this guy's name is Sonic Jet. Guy really fucking loves planes. On Round Midnight versus Bird, we just have a guy saying, nice video, which is great. Especially on this one, because Round Midnight and Bird are both very underseen movies. And this guy, and the same guy said the same thing on Stalag 17 versus The Great Escape. So, awesome. On the review video for Birth of a Nation, Hell or High Water, and Swiss Army Man, and a bunch of others. That was one of those catch-up videos. This guy says, "Great channel. Can I get a shout out?" I don't know what benefit you would get from getting a shout out from this channel, but sure. This dude's name is Robert 40. 40 is FORTI. So there you go. Is this guy's account even active? Doesn't look like it, but we'll say it anyway. And then we've got the Fantastic Beasts, Billy Lynn, Edge of 17, Hacksaw Ridge video. Hey, there's Robert 40 again, saying great channel. And then this guy saying Vince was awesome. I'm assuming that's Vince Vaughn and Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah. Oh yes, this whole comment's about Hacksaw Ridge. Okay. The Japanese general did commit suicide just like that. He did have his head chopped off. There are articles about it. The man that fought at Hacksaw told Mel he got it right. They talk about in interviews, it was the reign of steel and hell. Doss was on the stretcher, saw another man who looked worse, got off and tended to him and told him to put that stretcher on the guy, and Doss crawled 300 yards and was shot by snipers. Yep, amazing he didn't die. Yeah, that was the crazy thing about Hacksaw Ridge, is all that stuff that Gibson had to take out because he was afraid people would think it was unbelievable, despite the fact that it really happened. And yeah, it just really shows you how incredible Doss's story was. It's kind of a shame that I mean, obviously there was appreciation for it, and it had a lot of Oscar success, but there was still, like, it was mainly known as, like, Mel Gibson's really gruesome war movie and all that, and that's really all people talked about, but, and not the fact that there's just a really moving story at the center of it. And I think we talked about back then, like, it's amazing it took as long as it did for a movie to be made about it. And it's great a movie as well executed as Hacksaw Ridge was that movie, so that's great. On The Exorcist versus The Omen, we have 4. This guy says The Omen hands down. Alright. 2 masterpieces, awesome movies, great video, bro, thank you very much. And this guy says, I want the Exorcist movie. Have you tried eBay? On Wayne's World versus Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, we have somebody just say, party on, excellent, of course. And the second guy says, I'll bet back when Wayne's World first came out, Bill and Ted were probably thinking, hey, these dudes are copying off us, LOL. The thing that impresses me the most about this comment is that he actually, when he typed Wayne's World, it's actually like an earth emoji of some sort in the O, like the actual Wayne's World logo. I don't know why I love that so much, but I do. And then we go into Stir Crazy versus Life. This guy says, Stir Crazy the best, 2 exclamation points. Obviously Stir Crazy is amazing and hilarious, but, I mean, Life is, like, one of the most underrated movies ever. Life is, like, it's really, really incredible. I know it's built up as just this, you know, 90s comedy with Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, but it's like so much deeper than that. It has so much more to say than that. If you haven't seen that, please track that down, because it's an incredible movie. On Ben-Hur vs. Spartacus, we have somebody saying, both are worth owning, however Spartacus is a great film, while Ben-Hur is the greatest film ever made. Everything about Ben-Hur is 10 out of 10 perfect, and it holds up nicely today. It is. Like My Fair Lady, I also went and saw, when they put Ben-Hur back in theaters last month, and that was just enormous. I mean, it's one of those movies where even at home it feels enormous, but seeing it on a screen was like, that was kind of like a bucket list thing. And it really lived up to that, so that was amazing. On Once versus the Commitments, somebody said the ending is what's so great about the Commitments because that's how life really is. It doesn't always have a tightly wrapped up bow at the end of it. Sometimes it just fades away and people lose contact. Yeah, you could really say that about the endings of both movies, but yeah, the Commitments especially. I think I kind of turned this, if I remember correctly, I kind of turned this video into like me raving about Once, and it's like, oh, by the way, the Commitments is here also, but the Commitments really is an amazing movie also. And another one that kind of feels like it's, I mean, in certain crowds it's a huge movie, but I feel like there's not enough of those people. Like for the circles I'm in, it feels like a movie that's like way off the radar to where people haven't even heard of it, which is a crime. So people really need to look more into that. Ghostbusters versus Beetlejuice. Somebody just said great job. That's really nice. And then on the Purge election year, the BFG and the Legend of Tarzan review video, another short and sweet one. Just nice. Her name is Andrea Price, and she said nice. That rhymes. That's beautiful. The review video for Finding Dory and Central Intelligence. Hey, great review. Thanks. I'm a new movie reviewer on YouTube, and I recently did my own Central Intelligence and Finding Dory reviews. Would you mind checking it out? I subscribe to you as well. Oh, I feel bad for not knowing this. Let's see if this dude is still active at all. Oh, yeah. He's got an Endgame review, so he's clearly up to... Oh, good God. He just... Okay, this dude is, like, really active. Oh my God, he's doing better than we are. Okay. So I don't know what it's worth now, but the guy's name is Ryan O'Toole. Not that matters coming from us now, but yeah, so you can check that dude out too. His channel seems to be very active. The Willy Wonka video, Willy Wonka versus Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, has 6 comments. Okay. Why aren't you more popular? This is great. Thanks. That's actually something that I don't really mind, because I've told this to Owen numerous times, where if we were more popular than we are now, it would probably be, I would probably quit, because if it'd be too much pressure, and I would feel that every time I do this, I would like feel that on the other side of the camera, and I probably wouldn't be able to do this, so the fact that we're like at these sort of what's seen as like kind of low numbers, that's like my comfort zone, so I'm pretty good with where we are. Hey, I have an idea for oh yes, that is Owen's friend Bella that gave us the Emma versus Pride and Prejudice video, which I did recently, like a few weeks ago or a month ago or something. Some guy screaming in all caps that he wants Owen's Kurt Hennig action figure. And then this guy has a lengthy one. The original is the best. It keeps the focus on Charlie where it's supposed to, not Willy Wonka, which the remake did. Also, Charlie in the original is relatable because he acts like a real boy. In the remake, he's so plain and underdeveloped, you could run the movie without him. Yeah, ask my brother how he feels about Freddie Highmore's performance. On top of that, he does everything right. This kid is trying out for Jesus. That's probably true. In the remake, Michael Jackson, Willy Wonka, played by Johnny Depp. That's probably the part that annoyed me the most. Gene Wilder is subtle and interesting. The original is clearly the best, but I would give the remake this. The visual style is very nice. The kids are upgraded, which is more suitable for the modern age. The score is decent. Unfortunately, Danny Elfman doesn't manage to do the same with the songs, except the Willy Wonka song that'll make your ears bleed over its catchiness. I actually like what Elfman did with the songs. Yeah, that's my argument. So. With Lakeview Terrace versus Unlawful Entry, this guy just says, love your channel, subscribed. Holy shit, I must have really hit it out of the park with the Lakeview Terrace versus Unlawful Entry review. Okay. Versus whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, and then there was that whole weekend when Batman vs. Superman came out, and we just did, like, Batman-themed videos, or Owen reposted old Batman videos that we had done. And it is an interesting view. I personally thought they handled Superman exceptionally poorly. Yeah, I don't remember what the hell I said about Batman vs. Superman back then. I really don't. I'm sure my opinion has changed drastically by then. I'm one of those people that thinks the extended cut actually was significantly better and had more flow to it and had more meat to it, and had the way they went into certain other characters and built them up a little more was better. And then this guy says,
I don't know how anyone who has any respect for these characters could possibly think Batman vs Superman is accurate to the comic incarnations. Well, okay. I don't know if that's an argument to something we said or not. I really don't remember, but that is how he feels, apparently. On Aliens vs. Starship Troopers, we have a few. This guy says Aliens was actually inspired by Starship Troopers. And somebody responded to him saying Aliens was made before Starship Troopers. Yeah, isn't the book for Starship Troopers like from the 50s though? That might be what he means. And then this guy kept it simple, just said both are pretty good. So that is also true. On Kick-Ass vs. Super, this person says, excellent breakdown, I agree with many of the points. Thank you very much. This guy says, Super is set in the real world, Kick-Ass is set in a fictional New York trying to be a real New York. That is true. Actually, rumor has it that James Gunn actually had Rainn Wilson go method and actually go around and kill people while James Gunn filmed it. Rest in peace, Kevin Bacon. Lethal Weapon versus Bad Boys, we have a guy saying a classic versus a Michael Bay film. That's tough. And I don't really care for that particular attitude because it feels more like... I mean, obviously, you know, Michael Bay's done the Transformers movies and he did Pearl Harbor and all that, but at the same time, you know, throwing hate at Michael Bay's name just on principle just seems like more of a bandwagoning thing, especially since Bad Boys is fucking awesome. But, I mean, yeah, if you want to throw some appreciation at Lethal Weapon, I don't think anybody's going to argue with you on that. For the reviews for Ride Along 2, 13 Hours, The Forest, and Norm of the North, oh god. This person with a Doctor Strange profile picture said, AJ ranting about the ending of Norm of the North may just be one of the single greatest things I have heard all week. That's appreciated that all that pain didn't go to waste, and that somebody was getting joy out of it. On Space Jam versus Looney Tunes Back in Action, there are 6 comments. This first guy says, I vote for Space Jam all the way. Next guy says, I say both because they both are great movies. This guy says, I vote for Back in Action. This guy says Space Jam. This guy says Space Jam easily. And the last guy says both because both of them are good movies. I like how it's like watching children argue and then the last guy just kind of shut their shit down. It's like they're both good. Yeah, so there's that. The Howling versus American Werewolf in London. This guy says, in my opinion, The Howling had a better story, but American Werewolf was the better movie. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I had some, there's some things about The Howling I don't particularly like, and I think it's a bit too slow, but, those opening scenes, like before it's even a werewolf movie, in The Howling are, really, I love that. It's like that, like The Howling could have been a crime movie before it became, a werewolf movie, and both, would have worked out pretty well. On Heaven Can Wait versus What Dreams May Come, Miss Liberty Bella says, What Dreams May Come has been my favorite movie since it was released, and still is today. I can watch it millions of times and still be moved. Ironically, my second favorite movie is Patch Adams, also a Robin Williams movie. Robin is my favorite actor, and my heart still aches knowing he will never be able to make a continuing presence in our lives through movies and comedy. Still, the world is blessed from his presence, and we can always find him in as many movies he left us. That's beautiful. That's really genuinely nice. Yeah, because that was the last movie I did, the last verses I did when I did the 2 months of Robin Williams verses to like kind of commemorate that. And I figured What Dreams May Come was kind of the best send-off for obvious reasons. So yeah. The reviews for The Visit and The Perfect Guy. A guy called KM Reviews says, awesome review. If you want a little different perspective, you should check out the review on my page. Would love your input. Alright, let's see if that comment was 3 years ago. Let's see if this guy's still active. That other guy was doing pretty good. This guy is apparently not. His last review video was A Quiet Place a year ago. So, that's unfortunate. Then on Shakes the Clown versus Death the Smoochie, this person says, I love Death the Smoochie, I would define Shakes the Clown. I have seen Shakes, but it's been a long time ago, but I am a Bobcat fan. Yeah, Shakes is definitely worth checking. Like, Tom Kenny alone makes Shakes the Clown worth the price of admission. Um, and yeah, I agree with the Bobcat Love. I wasn't. God Bless America did kind of leave like a bad taste in my mouth, but I was like a huge advocate for his Bigfoot movie, Willow Creek, like where he went like with the Blair Witch style. A lot of people didn't care for that, but I don't know, for some reason it like really freaked me out, and I just really took to it. So yeah, make sure to check that out if you haven't. Jumanji versus Zathura. This guy says, so no Oscar videos this year? Question mark. Let's see. Jumanji vs. Zathura was posted on August 15th. Well, I mean, if this guy's so into the Oscar videos, he would know that we don't do them till like the very end of August. So, yeah, fuck you. Tootsie versus Mrs. Doubtfire. I think this was the first one we did for the Robin Williams thing. This guy says, out of all Robin Williams and Terry Garr's movies, Mrs. Doubtfire and Tootsie are my absolute favorites. Rest in peace, Robin Williams, wonderful comedian, wonderful actor, and Terry Garr, also wonderful comedian, wonderful actress, now diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Yeah, I remember hearing about that. And my absolute favorite movie is, like, that is like a crossover between Mrs. Doubtfire and Tootsie, is The Tale of the Frog Prince episode of Shelley Duvall's Fairy Tale Theater, since Terry Garr from Tootsie was in that episode with Robin Williams from Mrs. Doubtfire. I didn't even put that together, but that's absolutely right. So yeah, well said on all points there. The Magic Mike sequel and Terminator Genesis reviews. This guy says, I can't believe Donald Glover is in it. I was surprised. I heard Community. Yes, he definitely is in the Magic Mike sequel. He is suave as fuck, as usual. And then we have Jaws vs. Jurassic Park. This guy has a lengthy one that says, Jaws was always my favorite, but Jurassic Park had the better sequels by far. But only because it was a different time. With all that said, Jaws 2 is not a bad sequel, definitely not as good as Spielberg's first, but I do give the director some credit with that, what he had to work with. The only reason why the shark might have looked more fake was because they tried to make him look burned on one side on his face from the water skier scene, but that's when they should have stopped. Yeah, I actually really don't remember much about Jaws 2 apart from them finding the body, which I always found kind of freaky as a kid, but yeah, apart from that, Jaws 2 is like almost entirely like a gone memory. So with this said, I might be inclined to revisit it. The 3D craze of the early 80s was a poor excuse for a sequel, but Jaws just wanted to experiment. I can respect that, even though it was a cheesy sequel. While 3D was an excuse for the third one, there was simply no excuse for revenge. Michael Caine's House says otherwise. Now, as far as for Jurassic Park sequels, they were done right. They weren't rushed, had believable plots. It's sad that the Jaws sequels weren't done that way. That's like the most outright praise I've heard for The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3, weirdly. It would have been better if there were no sequels to Jaws, obviously. Alright, here's a couple from when my brother and I did the Tim Burton's Batman movies versus Nolan's trilogy. Two comments, and they're the same guy. There's nothing really to complain about Burton Batman here. Nolan was just trying to redeem the character from Schumacher, who shouldn't have been hired in the first place, let alone left and still had a dent in the DC universe that take a while to fill back up for unless they hire David Fincher. I'm not sure what half of that meant. He also said, I don't get why everybody likes Rises so much. We talked about Rises in the video for like an hour. Did we never get a point across in that hour? Shit. It had way too many plot holes. Yeah, we know. Why does the suspense music sound like a ripoff of the Halloween score? I mean, really listen to it. I can't say I'd noticed that. But I guess I'll look for it. And I really don't like Bane. He's a poor villain for a finale. They should have gotten the Riddler instead. He has ties to the League of Shadows also. Yeah. I can kind of see his way of thinking of not going with the Riddler because it would have been too obvious. But I more or less like what they did with Bane, but I mean, by the time it gets to the end, it is really easy to see why people are like, really, that's the best you can do for the very last movie. Especially since Hardy really is amazing, even with, his weird Vincent Price voice, but still, so yeah, I mean, I'll still defend Rises. I did say recently, I had a conversation with my brother again, in that video, we ranked them, and I put The Dark Knight last of the 5, and after having watched both it and Rises Again, like maybe a month ago or something. I kind of could feel my mind changing. It's like, yeah, maybe Rises would be lower, but I'll still defend it anyway. So whatever. On Poltergeist versus Insidious, we have Insidious makes me laugh. No joke. This is kind of funny. I watched Insidious for the first time the other day, and the whole time I could not stop thinking about how it was similar to Poltergeist. Yeah. And this guy, I just watched Insidious and thought, wow, this is basically an exact copy of Poltergeist. I love the original Poltergeist. I hated Insidious. There's not a lot of love for Insidious here. Which is fine. I still think it's pretty well made, though, but that could be the Juan fanboy in me. Kramer versus the Squid and the Whale. Dub Zombie says, it'd be neat if you also did Kramer versus the Brood. The Cronenberg movie? I would say you sick fuck, but his name is Dub Zombie, so it would make sense. The Furious 7 review. This guy says, I'm with you on liking the first the best and finding Tokyo Drift decent. Yeah, I've just really... I used to be really hyped about that whole Fast and Furious franchise. Like, I do really love the first movie, and actually like Tokyo Drift quite a bit, and then everything from, like, 5 on. But I don't know, Fate of the Furious just, like, really just kind of soured me on the thing. Like, I'm not even excited about them anymore because Fate of the Furious was such a fucking nosedive. And that's still just dumb as hell that we're just going to forget that Han died, especially after Statham was such an awesome villain in this one in 7. So I don't even know how I feel about the Hobbs and Shaw thing, but I guess we'll see when it comes out, whenever that is, in the next month or 3 or something. But yeah, I'm gonna struggle to care about those. When we got all the way to 7, we got all the way to, well, technically we got all the way to 8 before I was like, what the fuck, but yeah, so whatever. Goodfellas versus Casino. There's quite a few people here. Goodfellas better than Casino. Casino is still awesome though. Okay. All my buddies prefer Goodfellas. Casino is way better to me. Thank you. Love both. The Long Take and plenty of other great scenes, but Casino is a masterpiece. Totally and completely. Even as much as I praised Goodfellas in that video and will continuously, I just prefer Casino. I always have. I'll forever call Casino the vastly superior film. Much as I love this guy, he has 2 responses. You try to get fresh with me, Goodfellas wins in a landslide, and I strongly disagree. I think Goodfellas is vastly superior. Yeah. Casino, exclamation point. The Last Shot was not from a Cagney film. It was taken from a Western, The Great Train Robbery. Yeah. The Last Shot at Pesci in Goodfellas, where he's firing at the camera before Henry goes back inside. I was almost positive there was a moment in The Public Enemy where Cagney did that. But yes, I failed to mention it in the video, but I am also completely and totally aware of The Great Train Robbery from 1903. I think a lot of people who are into movies have tried to go through this book as much as they can, and it's one of the very first things you see is that shot. So I am well aware of it. I just totally slipped my mind when we were talking about that. This guy says Goodfellas definitely. This guy, Reg Cray, oh shit. Let's not fuck with this guy. Well, everyone is entitled to their opinion, but I have to say Goodfellas hands down. I'd class Goodfellas as a great movie. I'd class Casino as a good one for me personally. I love both, but I think Goodfellas was perfect, while Casino, although good, has some flaws. Too much narration, too much music, it seemed. There was more than that than dialogue, and for me it dragged a bit in the middle. I can get those complaints, especially the narration, but I fucking love Casino so much. Here's another commenter we shouldn't fuck with. His name is Harry Callahan, and his profile picture is Eastwood. Goodfellas all day, a lot more enjoyable film. Casino just dragged, with Stone screaming half the time, and their crap relationship boring, and the whole film feels like little sketches put together. Just lacks direction, build up. Good film, but no Goodfellas. Good film kind of contradicts everything that came before that, but once again, Terry Callahan, let's not fuck with him. On Vanilla Sky versus Open Your Eyes, this guy says, perfect, finally someone gets this one right. And Kevin Alonso under him says, I didn't know Americans had made a remake. I knew about Vanilla Sky for the longest time before Open Your Eyes, so we're like reversed there. So yeah, Killer Joe versus Bug. This guy says, some very interesting observations. I just watched Killer Joe a few days ago, followed by Bug. Both very interesting movies. I find the most astonishing thing the fact that Friedkin in his 70s was making some of the most shocking visceral cinema of his career, right? Bug is fucking nuts. I mean, Killer Joe is one of my favorite movies of the decade. And you know, obviously the whole kitchen scene, but I mean, Bug just went into just so many higher levels in regards to being, as you say, shocking and visceral. I find the stupidity of some of the characters in Killer Joe difficult to buy as realistic. I thought the fact that they were all a bunch of dumb fucks is the funniest thing about it. And Thomas Hayden Church, I can't say enough about. One of my favorite performances in a long time. And the climatic scene in the last half hour of it, though, was incredible, yes. Perfect double bill of fucked up love stories, yes. Love to hear other people's interpretations, so thanks for sharing. Thank you for listening. Backdraft versus Ladder 49. Oh, we got some people here, okay. They're both good. It is very close. I'd give Backdraft the edge. Ladder 49 is my favorite movie, but Backdraft is one of the greatest. Okay. By the way, Seagrave was the victim's last name. It's also the name of a company who makes fire trucks. Coincidental, but there is no relation. Backdraft all the way. Ladder 49 sucks! Exclamation point. That's a bummer. His responses are totally agree. Backdraft, much more masculine. Okay, I think somebody's insecure. And then this guy, Ladder 49, that was my dad's favorite movie, but he passed away now. He died, yes. And that's... Oh, sorry about that. FBA Gamer 12. Oh god. The Boy Next Door, Mordecai, Strange Magic. Review video. Jennifer Johnson says, I wonder where the hell did Clara put all the papers in her classroom. I wonder if she burned them... Wonder if she burned them somewhere, put them in the school garage, or buried them. That's what's on my mind. Oh my god. The Boy Next Door, remember the really stupid-ass, shitty-ass thriller with Jennifer Lopez? This video was January 2015. I know exactly what scene she's talking about still. Like, vividly. Like, this just brought back a whole thing. I should not have this vivid memories of The Boy Next Door. The Boy Next Door needs to get the fuck out of my head right now. There's so many more important things that I need room for in here, and The Boy Next Door will never be one of those. No. I refuse to ever remember that scene ever again. So this person, Mustache Twirler, says, Arthur and the Invisibles, even stupider, baby! Exclamation point. That must mean Strange Magic. Yeah, we kept comparing to Arthur and the Invisibles. I would agree, yes, Arthur and the Invisibles probably was stupider, as you say. And then Star Wars Agent says, I came looking for strange love. I assume they mean Strange Magic. The potion is probably like a magic dust that makes them sing songs they don't know. Like going to a karaoke show and getting potioned and all of a sudden you get hypnotized and start singing about love. I don't know if potioned is the right word for that, but okay. The potion is probably there to get the two worlds together and it knows what it's doing. Knowing Lucas in that essence, I would say the potion is like the Force. I completely forgot. Yeah, George Lucas is the reason we had that movie. It controls everything. I think it's interesting that a magic spell could do that if you believe in that stuff. Lucas said he just wanted songs and animation, no story or dialogue, clearly. But the directors and studios said no. Oh, well, it looks like we still got it anyway, at least from how I remember that movie. So, and then we have The American Sniper, The Wedding Ringer, Paddington, Inherent Vice. Comes back, reviews. And Black Hat. This guy says, Bradley Cooper wasn't given enough lines, but he flawlessly executed everything he was given. Yeah, it took me longer to list the movies that are in that review video than what this guy's comment was. But yes, Bradley Cooper is very good in American Sniper. We have the Boys in the Hood vs. Menace to Society video. The first guy here says, forgot about the Boys in the Hood, y'all want to see a dead body moment. Thanks for the review, you're very welcome. It's nice to hear other races talk about these movies. Believe it or not, some white people think the Hood is fiction or not that bad. I'm from Chicago. I went to college and overheard some fellow college students who are white mock the way people from Chicago feel unsafe in our communities. I guess some people just don't know or don't care. Yeah, this was one that I was really nervous about doing because I wasn't sure how exactly out of my element I was. So to hear you say that you want to hear other races talk about these movies is not only relief, but also really gratifying that I was able to do them justice as well as I could. It's also a real tragedy. This might as well bring up about how we lost Singleton recently, which really sucks. And he had a project he was working on that just would have been really great and would have been this really great way for him to kind of come back into the movie scene, because he was still, regularly working, but he was also more seemingly in the TV area than he was the movies. I think his last movie was that action movie with Taylor Lautner. But even Taylor Lautner, like, when the news broke, was just posting all kinds of stuff about him, how amazing he was to work with, and it was just... Yeah, that just kind of really sucks and kind of came from out of nowhere, too. It was one of those cases where you heard about the stroke, like, a few days prior, and just, like, the news got worse, and you could just feel your stomach sinking, and... But the fact that, movies like Boys in the Hood are gonna, live on, I was thinking of doing something talking about, like, poetic justice and higher learning and all that. And it's just, yeah, that was a huge blow to the industry. And what you're talking about here also with the white people mocking the way people from Chicago feel and all that is really kind of tragic. And it's, yeah, and it just, yeah, I don't know how else to put that, but the movies really do kind of portray just how far down that goes. Like, this guy also says, when Society is better, doesn't even look made in the 90s, such an awesome flick. When Society showed life in the Watts District, shot there during the Bloods Crips Trust. It's so authentic they even hired local gangbangers as extras. Watts and the surrounding areas are still the most dangerous streets in LA. And even posts a link here. Yeah, and then this guy says Menace Society all day. Which I don't quite agree with. I've watched Boys in the Hood again since this video, and it really just... There's just so much damn power in that movie, and the different approaches that it takes, and the whole kind of... It still feels like kind of a no-holds-barred way, even though we did discuss that Menace Society went significantly bleaker, but still, yeah, it's amazing how well those movies hold up, so... We have that, and then we have the Grease vs. American Graffiti video. This guy says, did you see the Hollywood Nights and Dazed and Confused? The Hollywood Nights, I believe, is the Tony Danza one, which I don't think I have seen. Obviously, I've seen Dazed and Confused, I think everybody has. And then this person says, I was 12 when American Graffiti came out. I went to see it with my family. I loved it. I was 17 by the time Grease came out. I never saw it, but I was way past John Travolta by then. He was the primary reason I had no interest in Grease. What the fuck? Why are you gonna hate on John Travolta? I recently watched Grease on Netflix, not impressed. Skipping it years ago had been the wiser choice. Well, fuck you. Nobody talks shit about Grease. Asshole. You're entitled to your opinion, of course. I'm kidding. The Hangover vs. Very Bad Things. We have Very Bad Things is by far the better movie, without a shadow of a doubt. If anything, The Hangover got inspiration from it. I would like to hear if Todd Phillips is a fan of Very Bad Things or not. It seems like something that would be his type. And then this guy says, well, there will be more to talk about after Very Bad Things. Yeah, it's way darker than The Hangover. The Hangover might be more fun for the average person, whereas Very Bad Things appeals to those who like dark humor, in my humble opinion. Very Bad Things is the better movie. Yeah, that video took such a detour from what it was really supposed to be, because it was going to be The Hangover and Do Where's My Car, originally. But I couldn't obtain a copy of Do Where's My Car at the time. So I was like, fuck it. Let's talk. I want an excuse to talk about Very Bad Things. I need to put Very Bad Things out there in some way. And I want to just gush about it and how much I love it and all its sick, twisted glory. So, there you go. It does seem real, looking back at it now, it looks really fucking off balance to have those two in the same video, but there it is. Next we have Adventures in Babysitting versus Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. This guy, Red Hot Yankees, says, I absolutely love both movies. Same. I totally agree that after Mrs. Stark is taken to the funeral home, that it is so different. In fact, within 20 minutes of the movie, I forgot there was even a babysitter. Yeah, exactly. Both similar plots. Old teens have to survive while babysitting young kids and cause mayhem and trouble, and both teens break the rules to get what they need while dealing with this. Yeah, I don't even know that comic kind of trails off. It's like it's incomplete. And then here's the kicker, and Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, they got caught, and in Adventures in Babysitting, they got away with it. That's true. And I love that they get caught in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead only because of literally the last line. And that's the only way. Okay, let's go in a entirely different direction. Now we've got when I did Todd Browning's Dracula movie against Coppola's, the Bela Lugosi and Gary Oldman. This guy says, I love both movies, but I prefer the 92 version because it's closer to the book. That and the 92 film is the best version. Okay. I don't know, a couple of those Hammer ones with Christopher Lee are like really, really damn good, especially that first one. And then this guy, Brian Scott, says, you haven't read the book? 3 question marks. Oh, brother. I turned him into one of Damon Wayans' kids, apparently. Oh, brother. Yeah, I haven't read the book, which means I have no input whatsoever on the 50 fucking thousand Dracula movies that exist. Going on to the Blair Witch Project versus Paranormal Activity. This guy has a lot to say about Blair Witch, apparently. A lot of Blair Witch fans think that the 3 filmmakers actually unknowingly went back in time. That would explain the... I think I've heard that. That would explain the kids, probably the ghosts of the Burkittsville 7, playing outside of their tent during the middle of the night, and how the filmmakers somehow found Rustin Parr's house, even though it was burnt down back in the 40s, according to the legend. This is creeping me out, reading this all over again, especially since it's like really either late at night or early in the morning, whatever you want to call it. I think the first night when Josh was screaming in pain during the night was actually Josh, but I think that it was the witch mimicking Josh's voice during the final night as a way to lure Heather and Mike into the house to be subsequently killed, maybe possessed by a possessed Josh. I kind of want to stop reading this now. There's an extended scene that I've seen. It's on YouTube when Heather is apologizing in front of the camera. She alludes to the fact that she had extensive knowledge of the stories and eerie tales about the Blair Witch legend, and that she regrets never telling Mike and Josh all the stories. Apparently, she only told half of them. I have a feeling that she had a pretty good idea that the house was towards the end of the film, but she reserved herself from informing Mike from what I guess out of fear and thinking the house is probably where they're going to die. She had told Mike about Josh's remains in that bundle of sticks she found that morning. That would have probably cracked Mike's sanity completely, so that probably is why she refrained from informing Mike about it. God, I can talk on and on about this film, my favorite horror film and my favorite film in general of all time. This guy fucking loves Blair Witch. Which I'm really glad, because Blair Witch is another one of those movies that had the reputation when it came out, and nowadays people... I don't know, people seem to be coming back around to it, but there was a while there where all people wanted to do was shit on it, about the camera work, now they don't think it's scary and all that, when in actuality it's fucking terrifying. Like I said, just reading what this dude said is freaking me out right now. We can move on. We are going to move on to Scarface versus Carlito's Way. This guy... Oh, we got another back and forth argument. We have Carlito's Way is better, in my opinion. The next guy says, I think Scarface is better. This guy says, Scarface is the best. Carlito has no chance. And the fourth guy said, Carlito's Way is better. Perfectly balanced, as all things should be. The next one is Trainspotting versus Requiem for a Dream. One guy says, you have a really relaxing voice. It's mesmerizing listening to this review. Thanks. Starting to wonder if this guy is a cast member from Trainspotting or Requiem for a Dream. But that is a wonderful compliment, and I take it graciously. Alpha Dog versus Bully. Billy Barrett says, Bully was way more chilling. Yeah, I would say. As far as I know, both of them are quite factually accurate. I know it's hard to say that about anything, but and obviously there's what Cassavetes did with Alpha Dog, but Larry Clark with Bully, obviously Larry Clark has a much more kind of visceral approach to what he does, and you kind of feel that throughout Bully, and it's like, and Alpha Dog is a movie that feels like it has breathing room, and Bully just feels like you're constantly being bombarded with just the fucking ugliness of all those people's lives, so I would totally agree with that. And then we've got this combo video where I did these off-the-radar zombie movies. Dead Snow 2, Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, and all that stuff. Goal of the Dead. I guess this is about Pro Wrestlers vs. Zombies, which I've talked about a bit because it was shot around here, and a lot of people we knew were, like, extras and all that. And I wasn't very kind to the movie, and I felt a little bad about it. But especially as somebody that wants to make movies, it's like I'm already burning bridges with the people around here that make movies, but this is not this... Well, not getting into all that. This guy says, you forgot the indie wrestler that was probably the best part of the movie, Facade. He did a great job, and I hear Piper say Facade was the best part of the movie as well. I would argue that Piper was. I was also an extra in the movie. I was in the ring scene you were talking about. Sorry. This is where I met Hacksaw Jim Duggan and got him for my movie. That's pretty cool. The Axeman of Henderson County. He did a great job in my movie. Good. I'm sure he did. He's very, he has a shitload of personality. That's for sure. We got Seven versus Zodiac. This guy says, no Blu-ray? I'm baffled. I do have Seven on Blu-ray now. I still haven't gotten Zodiac on Blu-ray yet, but I love that Seven DVD though that opens up like John Doe's Notebook. I'm still gonna hang on to that even though I've had the Blu-ray for a while now. This guy says, love it, 2 of my favorite movies of all time, and this guy says, I just watched Zodiac. It is a fantastic movie. Yes, it is. From this next review video from July 2014, where we talked about the Purge Anarchy and Sex Tape and Planes, Fire and Rescue and Paul Haggis' Third Person. The comment is about Third Person. From BooBop1987 says, nice job on the movie review of Third Person. I got to review that movie myself. Let's check to see if this person's still alive. And they are... Oh, well, hold on. We gotta find the... Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. 1 day ago was the last one. So yes, this person is BooBop1987. That's a hilarious name. Then we have Gremlins vs. Critters. This says, hey, I love Critters and Gremlins and your video. Thank you, Albino Reviews. That's very nice. And then this person in all capital letters and exclamation point says, underrated alert. I'm going to assume that's about Critters, because I don't think Gremlins can be considered underrated, because everybody loves it. The next one, we have, oh god, the Harry Potter vs. Lord of the Rings video, where I did the whole Potter franchise versus the Rings trilogy. This one dude, this guy says, hey dude, do yourself a favor and read those Harry Potter books. You'll get more info that is not in the books. I have some of them, I don't have all of them. I could have gotten them not that long ago at a yard sale in hardback, the ones that I don't have. But I didn't have the money on me at the time that they wanted, or else I definitely would have done that. I can tell you that in one part you said Harry went with Cho to the ball. He asked her, but she said no. She went with Cedric, who gets killed in the Goblet of Fire by Wormtail, yeah. You can also read The Lord of the Rings. It's the best trilogy of all time. I do have those somewhere. I do not remember where they are, but those books are in this area somewhere. The reason the movies are so long is because the books are so long as well. Thanks for your video. You tried your best. Thanks, Dad. Then we have Snow White versus Sleeping Beauty. This person says you should do a versus with The Lion King and the Prince of Egypt. Obviously, recently I did The Lion King and The Jungle Book. Then they said Dumbo versus Cinderella. That's a weird one. And then this person says Snow White equals Homer Simpson and Aurora equals Peter Griffin. Is that to say that Sleeping Beauty did, like, the Snow White thing, just not as good, but it's the same thing? I think a group of people got fucking stoned and started commenting on this Snow White Sleeping Beauty video. Then we have American History X versus Romper Stomper, where this guy says Russell Crowe was badass in Romper Stomper. He was a bad guy, but you could tell he had charisma and screen presence. Absolutely. Oh god. The spoiler alert video for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I thought this movie was really good. I'm still shocked Gwen died, even though I knew it was going to happen. Holy shit! Comment on an Amazing Spider-Man 2 video that's not telling me I'm fucking insane for thinking it's incredible. Holy shit. Another fan of Amazing Spider-Man 2. Oh my god. You exist. Holy shit. Okay, we have Platoon and Full Metal Jacket, the Versus video. We've got a few people here. This guy just says, this was very interesting, thank you. You're very welcome, and I'm glad you feel that way. This guy, I hope his name is accurate. His name is I agree with everything you say. He says, Barnes shot Elias because he was worried that he'd be a witness against him in a potential court-martial for what happened in the village. Agree about your first half of Full Metal Jacket, but there are memorable quotes from the second. I love you a long time, you talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? Ain't more hell, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Did I say otherwise? Because that's not the case. I think they were trying to show how, despite the training, you can never prepare for the reality of war, or war actually is, and why it was in two very different parts, the duality of man and war. P.S. I much prefer Full Metal Jacket to Platoon. It's just perfect to me. Yes, I agree. Interesting vid, very belated. Thanks. You're very welcome. Once again, being late doesn't matter. Obviously. And yes, Full Metal Jacket is like one of my top 5 favorite movies, for sure, much as I love Platoon as well. This guy has a lot to say. Aaron Turner says, my dad and uncle, Vietnam vets, actually had a hard time watching Platoon. They said it was the most realistic non-movie they've ever seen. They've actually broke down and cried watching Platoon before more than once. So for anybody that says the Platoon is unrealistic or too Hollywood or too overdramatic, it's usually accused of being so. You couldn't be more wrong. Sure, it's a little overdramatic in certain parts, but that's the movie side of it. When they watch Full Metal Jacket, they usually cut up and laugh and have a good time for the most part. Platoon is more complete and better, mostly because you get a great performance from more actors in Platoon, and the pacing and the atmosphere is better and kind of scary. And more realistic movie. I know that's unpopular to say, but oh well. That's actually pretty insightful, so even though I'm more on the Full Metal Jacket side, this is really cool to hear. I will say that Lee Ermey, rest in peace, nailed it in Full Metal Jacket, as did Vincent D'Onofrio. The rest of the cast was okay. I also like the Animal Mother, Private Pile thing. I can't really explain it that well, but it's like Animal Mother is what Private Pile would have been if he went to Vietnam and didn't shoot himself. That's a really good point. I like that. And the second half of Full Metal Jacket was not bad. Correct. But it was a drop-off. It was good, but not near the greatness of the first half. It's just more of a testament to how great the first half was. I still love both of them. I think the whole thing is just, yeah. I thought Full Metal Jacket could have and should have been more. Okay. It's hard to compare these two movies, though. One is more of a war movie with the boot camp experience as well, Full Metal Jacket, and the other is more of an anti-war movie with war aspects, Platoon. Correct. That was really insightful. Thanks for posting that. Now we've got the Transcendence, Haunted House 2, Heaven is for Real stuff. Oh. Like, every one of these comments is for a different movie. This first guy just says, wow, thanks for calling the Raid 2 a masterpiece. You're welcome. It is. This guy, Jimmy Jazz, says, Hate Ship, Love Ship was based on an Alice Munro short story. I completely forgot about Hate Ship, Love Ship. Oh my god. This guy's got a lot to say about it. He recently read it in English Lit. I wasn't particularly impressed with the story, and your review seems about right to me. In the story, Steinfeld's character was the main one, the other girl was more compassionate. I don't remember any of this. Also, there was no Jennifer Jason Leigh and no drugs involved. On the whole, I thought it was kind of a mediocre story, and one of the weakest in the collection we read. Also, Big's character never makes out with a mirror in the story. Weirdly enough, I do remember that. This guy says, oh, they're interacting. It's it's like watching an ant farm or something. It had a good concept, but it was an awful movie. To which somebody replied, which movie? And this guy says, Transcendence! Exclamation point. Yes, Transcendence was incredibly underwhelming. Alright, we got Lockstock versus Snatch. This guy says, what do you mean you never find out about the guy on fire? It's explained later in the film that Roy Breaker set him on fire. Yes. Yeah, that was, I probably, when I did this video, I was, like, rushing it, and I hadn't seen Lockstock for a while, because I'm much more of a, I've seen Snatch significantly more times, so I probably swiftly was catching up on Lockstock and missed some things. The second guy says Roy set that guy on fire. I actually did get Lockstock on Blu-ray recently, and I have been able to watch it again since that. And I happened to notice something while I was watching it again. I could be wrong here, this is just a theory, but, guys, I think Rory Breaker might have set that guy on fire. Right now we've got the Wicker Man versus the original versus the Nicolas Cage remake by Neil LaBute. This guy says, because it is a spoof. I'm guessing that's, yeah, because like that whole video is me saying that the Cage movie is like, should not be critiqued as a horror movie because it's so clear they're just fucking with everybody when they made it. So, yeah, okay.
I guess it's a spoof. They took the Evil Dead 2 approach, apparently. Next, we have the review video for Muppets Most Wanted, Divergent, and God's Not Dead. Wow, that was a diverse video. This person... I believe this is the same guy that just commented on the Wicker Man video. This guy says... What if it was called God is Dead and it had the same screenplay as, let's say, Prometheus and had the same ideas and messages? What would you say then? What the fuck? What if God's Not Dead had the same screenplay as Prometheus is what the guy is saying. Can you respond to that? Somebody did. This guy says, I'm an atheist and it would depend. And if it were well written with points and arguments supported by science and facts, refuting religion blended with an entertaining sci-fi story, I would say it is a great movie. If it's misrepresented the other side, used a cliche story and did not bring up science or facts to support its arguments, like God's Not Dead, I would say it's a bad movie and a disgrace to the atheist community. Okay. And the guy said, guess this is his God's Not Dead / Prometheus movie, with co-production and direction by Christopher Nolan and Ridley Scott. What is this guy smoking? Okay, here's a normal person. Toby Bruckner says, I watched this review of God's Not Dead hoping that you weren't a Christian. You got it. Because I wanted to see how someone non-religious would be affected by it. For me, a Christian, this movie was awesome, but I came out of it just wondering if it would really even affect someone non-religious at all. My questions to you would be, did the movie inspire you? No. Did the movie provoke thought? Not really. And did you enjoy the movie? I didn't. I say that in the video you just watched. Good reviews, man. Oh, thanks. I'm sorry for being condescending. You seem very nice, so I respect your opinion, even though I still stand by that I think the God's Not Dead movies and the Pure Flix movies are really bad and unhealthy, especially for people that are on the more impressionable side. So there's that. Crash versus Magnolia. This guy says Magnolia all the way. Crash didn't deserve shit for Best Picture. Should have went to Munich. There's something you don't hear every day. A Munich fan. That's great. Do Olympus Has Fallen versus White House Down. Okay. I think I talked about those before. Yeah, they both would have been 2013, so we talked about them. But you know what? I actually might do that. It seems like an easy one, and it's been 6 years since I've seen them. Why the hell not? Jimmy Jazz came back. He said, wow, I got a huge thrill when I saw these two movies put against each other. I wrote a 20-page paper on Magnolia, and it's one of my favorites. Nice. Yeah, there's like a billion things you could say about Magnolia. I actually, when he was promoting Phantom Thread, PTA was talking about how he's grown as a filmmaker, and the fact that if he made Magnolia now, he would cut 20 minutes out of it. Which I was kind of disappointed to hear, because I was like, I can't honestly... I mean, this might seem, like a bit of hyperbole because it's 3 hours and 8 minutes, but I gotta tell you, off the top of my head, I can't think of a minute I'd cut out of Magnolia. For real. Yeah, but I'm interested he never elaborated, I don't think, on what he would have done, but, maybe I don't want to know. The Nightmare on Elm Street versus Friday the 13th, where I did the whole series of one versus the whole series of the other. This guy says, Alice Cooper played Freddy's dad and did the theme song Man Behind the Mask for Friday 6. That's true. I didn't even make that connection. Awesome. Next we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre versus House of a Thousand Corpses. That was the original Texas Chainsaw I did that with. This guy says House of a Thousand Corpses is heavily influenced by Massacre 2, just by observance. Yeah, you can tell. This guy says, really enjoy your videos, guys. Keep doing them. That comment was 5 years ago. I'm pretty sure he got his wish. This guy says, Texas Chainsaw: The Beginning is the best movie of Texas Chainsaw. It's much more disturbing and gory. That's a new one. That's fucking crazy, but still, it's really refreshing to hear something you don't hear that often. This this guy says, "Really? Do you like the Transen?" That's German Leatherface. I don't know what the hell that means. And the guy defends himself. He says it's his opinion. Texas Chainsaw at the beginning is much more gore, and the guy just says okay. And the same guy commented, I guess to me, who wins? I think I chose the original Texas Chainsaw because the original Texas Chainsaw is a fucking masterpiece. Even though House of a Thousand Corpses like kind of gets better over the years. Like I think I prefer House of a Thousand Corpses to The Devil's Rejects now. But I mean, nothing beats the original Texas Chainsaw, of course. Alright, Titanic versus The Notebook. Good God. That video feels like it was 20 years ago. This person says, "You guys are awesome. Thank you very much. I personally love Titanic more. It was far more tragic and sad and funny, even." Yes, obviously Titanic is clearly a better movie than The Notebook, of course. Even though I do like The Notebook. John Fabian here has a lot to say. Bottom line is the main characters in the Titanic, Jack and Rose, are more mature than the characters in The Notebook, Noah and Allie. Jack and Rose knew exactly who they were and what they wanted both in life and in love, while Noah and Allie only knew their love for each other, but still finding themselves in life, which personally I think the maturity plays a big part of it. Okay. Note the beginning in The Notebook, Allie doesn't hook up with Noah right away. She was like, I'm not sure. Which is all justified by the whole timeline with both characters had the time to mature and grow. Yeah. While in the Titanic, Rose already knew exactly that Jack was the one for her the moment he involved himself to save her, in Jack's famous quote about making each day count. As for people saying the Titanic is epic and the Notebook isn't, personally I think both are good and they're both epic equally. I still think it's, I mean, I can understand using the word epic for the Notebook, especially with how much time it spans, but I mean, epic in the sense the Titanic is. I think we're dealing with two different epics here, but I get what you mean. I like the fantasy and thrill in Titanic, and I like the whole realism and could happen to anyone feel in Notebook. That's, yeah, okay, that's a fair sentence. Alright, and we are going to end this video at the second versus I ever did, Toy Story 3 versus The Brave Little Toaster. This person says, "The musical numbers in The Brave Little Toaster are some of the best songs I've ever heard in an animated film. Nice. Even better than those from the first 4 Disney Renaissance films." Ooh. Then this person says, oh my god, the real Crazy Jake has a lot to say. "I must correct you on one thing about the toaster. In the movie, there are a few times that he is referred to as a he, even though he is voiced by a woman." Yeah, when he, like, almost drowns, they say he was, I'm guessing he's just telling me there more. When he is establishing that they are going out to find the master, Kirby says to the others, "Oh, come off it. He's serious." Oh yeah, that's true. In fact, if you pay close enough attention, you will see that in the movie, all of the main appliances are referred to as a he. However, in the book, they emphasize that none of the appliances are either gender. The radio points out that they are all its. I can hear Levitt saying that. He should have. However, in the book, they emphasize that... Oh, wait, I just read that. Fuck. As far as the relationship between the toaster and the blanket, they share a familial bond. Toaster acts as an older sibling to Blanky. One could even say he acts as a parental figure because Blanky's character, along with the actor who voiced him at the time, is a child. Makes perfect sense. The toaster is protective of the blanket, not romantically involved in any way. Anyone who claims otherwise obviously paid no attention to the nature of their individual character. Did somebody say that? Also, just a reminder, The Brave Little Toaster was a Hyperion Coaster Productions film. Disney only brought the rights to the home video sales, yes. At Sundance, the only reason it did not win Best Feature Film was due to the fact that Sundance didn't want a cartoon animated movie winning that award. That's absolute bullshit. Because back in the 80s, cartoons were not taken all too seriously in the film industry. I'm only correcting you on some minor details because I know this movie inside and out, clearly. So if you have any questions about it, I will do my best to answer you. And if I don't know the answer, I do have online connections with Jerry Reese, the writer and director. Holy shit. That's interesting. No wonder you know so much. Oh, and I also forgot to mention that every Toy Story movie was influenced heavily by The Brave Little Toaster. That shows. That's what the whole video was about. Joe Rams co-wrote both The Brave Little Toaster and Toy Story. Also, John Lasseter was also originally part of the Brave Little Toaster crew, but he did not stay for the production of the film. Lasseter originally proposed that The Brave Little Toaster be the first fully 3D computer animated film, but that idea was rejected for the film, so then Toy Story became that film. Makes sense. Oh, and actually, if you pay attention to some of the humor in The Brave Little Toaster, there actually is quite a bit of adult humor hidden in there, just so you know. Yeah, like most animated movies now, Shrek kind of popularized that. But it's nice that it goes at least all the way back to here. So, Yes, okay, that was this whole thing, and it probably was longer than I wanted it to be, but here we are. And hopefully, I have moved on to other things in another 6 years. But otherwise, if not, I guess we'll do this again. But let's hope. Let's just hope that not that I hate doing this or anything. And obviously, reading most of these is like really just really feels fantastic in general. But yeah, so before I have some sort of existential crisis right here on camera, that's what the last 6 years or so of doing this has amounted to. So that's what all that is. So yeah, most of these people are really really cool. So and not the complete and total cesspool that I had assumed the YouTube comment section always is. It just is 99% of the time. You guys are the 1%. So so good job. So yes, I'm going to go ahead and end this now. So we've got all that other stuff that I've been talking about coming. More review videos, more verses, that big catch-up video, all that other stuff. So until all that stuff, that's it for this.